On my previous video, I showed you how to knit a seamed or mock rib top without using the ribbing attachment on the circular sock knitting machine. So now I'm working on the leg, and I use a loose tension, and I'm supposed to knit 80 rows, but I'm gonna get to 75, and I'll tell you why. Because your ankle is narrower than the rest of your leg, so I will adjust the cam to make the stitch shorter and tighter, so it fits the ankle really well. If you are new to this, practice before playing with the tension cam. I would suggest you to make many practice socks just to get a feel of it, and once you're very comfortable, then you can proceed and play with the tension. So I'm gonna put my weights back on. And I will knit until 75. I have 73 according to my counter. So let me see, can you see the counter? There you go. And I'm 2 more, and I actually was 1 more, and I have 75. So look at my lever, my cam, I'm sorry, lever here, and I will make it 1 or 2 turns tighter. I'm gonna make it 2. In the last 5 rows, I'm gonna work them this way to adjust the ankle, to narrow the ankle. And voila, here we go. Now we're gonna work the heel, so we need to make the stitch a little bit longer again. So first of all, I'm gonna go to the half the center of my knitting machine. See, this is the center, and this is the center of the half of the cylinder, and this is the center. So I'm gonna put my carriage right there, and I will loosen up a little bit the stitch because I already finished my ankle. So I'm gonna do by 1 turn. There you go. All right, so let's begin. We will take out of work half of the needles in your cylinder. We have our carrier, yarn carrier or carriage in front of the machine, and let's raise up out of action half of the needles, starting with the ones after the half mark. You need to put marks on your cylinder marking the half of the cylinder. This is a 54, and I'm gonna lift out of work all these needles. So let's do that. And there you go. Did I miss one? Nope. So they are all out of work, which means I can start working on my heel. I'm gonna engage my take-on spring. I don't know if you can see it. The take-up spring or heel spring, and I'm gonna put the yarn on it. This is tricky with one hand. And we're ready to begin working the heel of our sock. All right, there you go. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use a different method than last time. Last time I used 1 up to down. Granted, the beginning, the first part of it is the same. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my carriage or my my yarn carrier to the back, until I hear a noise that's gonna tell me it's in the right place. And then I'm gonna lift up out of work one needle at each side. So one here, go back, always the side of the yarn carrier. So I'm gonna hold down, please remember always do that. I'm gonna try not to block the camera, because the side needles are the ones that always tend to lose stitches. So I hear the crack noise. Then I'm gonna lift up this one, and I'm gonna continue doing this until I have 12 needles only in the center of the in the center of the cylinder. So see, the side of the yarn carrier. And I lift that one up already out of work, holding down. Hear the crack. Lift that one up too. See how now we have 2 after the mark and 2 after the mark on each side. So when I'm sure if you lifted it or not, just count how many needles you have out of work on each side. Okay, so let's do that and come back when all the needles are lifted up. And remember, at some point you need to put weight on the heel, or the work would rise and you won't be able to keep going, because you're gonna lose stitches. So I'm gonna put it like at this distance and come back when we have only, and I will come back when we have only 12. All right, I have 12 needles in the center of my cylinder, and in my previous videos, the toe up sock, I used a method in this part called 1 up, 2 down. I am not gonna do this time. I'm gonna use something different. I'm just going to lower 1 on the opposite side of the yarn carrier. So we're gonna do all that around until we get to this needle, and we won't lower the needles before the mark, because those are the ones that are gonna prevent a hole to form. So let's keep going, shall we? So I am with my yarn carrier on the right, and I'm going to lower the opposite needle, opposite the carrier. All right, and go 1 turn, slow, holding your work. See, the work is starting to rise up here. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna do this, and now I'm gonna push down this one on the other side, the opposite side, and I'm gonna adjust my weights a little bit, just turn it up a little bit, so the work, to keep the work down. So I am trying not to block the camera, it's very difficult. Make sure you don't lose any stitches. 1 down. Here we go. Another down. And we're gonna keep doing that until we get to this needle. All right, if you can see now, I am 1 needle and 1 needle before the black one. So I already lowered that one, so I'm ready to go back to the left. And I lost 1 stitch here, but don't panic. I got it. Here we put it in place. We have to make sure this is the most difficult part of the whole process. All right. Now I'm not gonna lower this once. I'm gonna go back to the center, and I will lower all the needles out of work back to work. So there you go. So I'm gonna lower this ones, 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 this ones. Make sure all the latches are open. Engage your take up spring, or the heel spring that is called too, and very slowly go around like the rest of the turn. And there you have it. Your heel is done. Now you work the foot. For the foot, I'm gonna tighten the tension a little bit, just one turn, and then I will work the toes the same way as I worked the heel. And when the toe is done, what we are close to the last round of the toe, I'll show you how to take the work out of the machine, and then what it looks like and how you have to stitch together the two flaps. All right, thank you. All right, I worked 50 rounds for the length of my foot. That is depending of the length of your foot. So I would suggest you to measure your foot, do a little swatch and figure out how many stitches you need and the length you need. For my foot, because I have very small feet, it's just 50 rounds with tension a little bit tighter. So once you have that settled, I'm ready, or you will be ready to work the toes, and we're gonna do it the same way as the heels. So we're gonna go to the middle of our cylinder here. I'm gonna loosen up the stitch in my tension cam one and a half turn, I would say, because you don't want your toes to be really tight. And then I will engage my take up spring for the toe, or the heel spring, toe spring, it's called different ways. And I will lift out of work half of the needles in my cylinder, same way we did with the heel. All right, lift the needle right before the mark for the center of your cylinder. And I am going to start by moving my yarn carrier to the back until I hear the crank noise, and I'm gonna lift one needle each side. And this is a little bit easier. The second part is a more difficult one for some reason. When I started doing this, I always lose stitches on the side, so be very careful, do it slowly, and pay a lot of attention and hold the work down a little bit, not pulling it hard, just holding it this way. See? And remember, the same way we did the heels, we're gonna end with 12 needles in the cylinder. So I lift one here, now I have to lift one here. You see, now I have one after the mark, and keep going until you have the 12, and I'll come back. We did the next part, and I'll show you how to take the work out of the machine. All right, we have already our 12 needles in the middle. So I'm gonna go back and then lower the first needle opposite, and we're gonna keep going until there are 2 needles left before the mark. Okay, let's do it. Oh my goodness, this way. Now lower this one go back, lower that one, and so on and so forth. So I am one away from this one and one away from this one. So I'm going to go this way, then lower, go that way, come back to the middle and lower all my needles. Remember, see, lower that one, and I'm gonna leave it here. Remember, we started with the one after the middle of the cylinder mark. Well, we're not gonna lower these two ones, because these are the ones that are gonna prevent the holes on the sides seams of the sock. So I'm gonna go back once, and then when I come back, I'll stop in the middle. Careful, because this is the last stitch and that's a pesky one. Make sure you don't lose it. All right, now I don't lower this one, and I'll go back to the center and lower all the needles that I have out of position. Here we go. Now lower them. This was successful, and this is gonna be a little bit different from the heel at this point, because what we are going to do is, this is the flaps, these are the flaps that close to have the toes. So in other words, is this part here. See? When they were joined here in the center. So we cannot add another round here, because it will make the one part of the toes bulky, and we don't want that. So we're gonna have to figure out a way where we get here, but we put our waste yarn and then finish the round with waste yarn, because this round has been completed already, so we don't want to add rounds. All right, so here we go. You can either do it here, or I started the rounds here, maybe I should do it here. This as long as you put your waste yarn soon to avoid bulkier sides. All right, so I prefer to do it on this side. Oh, and remember to engage the heel spring, or the take-up spring in this case, because we're doing toes, no heels. So I'm gonna bring right to the middle here, and I will change the yarn right there. Changing the yarn is critical too, so be very careful when you do this, because you might lose stitches if you don't do it correctly. So this yarn has to be a little bit up, so I'm going to pull it through this needle over here, and then I will put my waste yarn, thread my waste yarn over the mast, and pass the yarn through the yarn carrier eye. All right, so we want this needle to catch the yarn, but don't pull it down, just pass it around, but don't pull it down, because this yarn needs to be a little bit up to be caught by the carrier. All right, so this is critical. I am gonna just hold, not pulling, slightly holding these two strands, and I'm going to go really slow. And this was a success. See, I didn't lose any stitches, and I'm gonna go a few rounds. Don't worry about this. This is just the ends of where I added the yarn together, so that will disappear. All right, and I'm running out of waste yarn, so I'm gonna stop right there. Take my weights off. And I'm gonna remove the work from the machine. All right. So, oh, look, I had this, the V weight still hanging there. So, and here we go. So let me show you what it looks like. So here we go. Yay! Look at that. This is our sock. See, the sides came really good. That's the heel. This is the top. That's your elastic band. And I will remove the waste yarn. Just pick in the middle, pick a strand of waste yarn and cut it. Make sure you don't cut any of the main yarn. See, this way, and then cut a little bit more here. And you're gonna pull this strand and then just take it off. And here's your elastic top. This is the rest of the sock, your heel, and the toe. And the way you're gonna work the toe is, some people recommend that while you have it here, iron it or steam it so the stitches stay, and then you can remove the waste yarn and stitch it. I'm still a little bit unnerved about removing waste yarn before I stitch it, so I'm gonna go and iron it and steam it, and then you have to join. Grafting is called. You have to graft the two tops this way. See? And this will be the end result. So look at that. It took some doing, but I could figure it out. If you want me to post a video on how to use a Kitchener stitch or grafting stitch, I can, but I can assure you there's better videos out there in the internet on YouTube than mine. I'm really a beginner stitcher in that matter. I can stitch, but no socks. I usually do toe up socks because they are easier, but you know, they don't come as snug, I'm sorry. They don't come out as snug as the ones you do this way, because you can actually control the tension of the socks. So, and look at the pattern. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. All right, if you have a ribber and you can get a ribber for this machine, it will be better. If you don't, well, don't sweat it. You can do it the way I just did it, and hopefully this is going to be helpful to you, and you're gonna make a lot of socks for this winter. Okay, thank you for being here, and see you next time.